Hello, everybody. I'm Marilyn Bradford, and I'm joined today once again by the amazing Pam Houghteling.
Hello.
Hello. And this is another edition of the Irreverent Therapists. Today, we're going to look at who or what are you unwilling to lose? Many of us have people, places, and things we believe we cannot lose and still be us. I can't be me without that. How much is that limiting what we can be and choose? What if losing can be a liberating experience? I'm going to read some of the things that I've gotten from clients when I've asked them, what are they unwilling to lose? I can't lose my belief systems. They define who I am. I can't lose where I live. I'll never find a place as wonderful. I can't lose my alcoholic daughter. I'll do whatever it takes to bail her out of trouble. I can't lose my job. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I can't lose my reputation. It means everything to me. The thing is, if you're unwilling to lose these things, you are, in a sense, really stuck. But most of us don't realize that when we are willing to lose, number one, it doesn't mean we have to lose it. Mm-hmm. And number two, it opens up a space, a possibility for something even greater. So, who or what are you unwilling to lose? That if you lost it would change everything and give you more possibilities.
Well, and I think that piece you talked about where so often we think to be willing to lose something, it means I'm going to.
Yes.
And to me, being willing to lose it is more like I'm not resisting and reacting, losing it. Like yes. That I know I can lose it and still go on.
Yeah.
And great. And yeah.
Yeah. And the universe has my back, which is something that most of us didn't know and really had to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or don't know even yet.
Yes, that's true too. Absolutely.
So Marilyn, what's something you weren't willing to lose and then you were and that changed things?
Well, I would say that I was unwilling to lose the place where I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's a fabulous location. It's a great house. And my landlady has given me a really good rate. Mm-hmm. The other day I realized, you know what? I could live somewhere else. And I was looking at weird things like moving to Georgia or moving to Malta. What I really realized was just allowing the possibility that I could be happy living somewhere else, because I had decided years ago in the late 80s, I'm going to move to Santa Fe. That's where I'm going to stay and die. This is the place for me.
Yeah.
But you know what? There are other places. And it's also something like that, but it can be in anything. We are making that person, place, or thing, that reputation, that job, that daughter, that whatever it is, greater than us and giving it total control over us.
Yeah.
That's not a very spacious space to live from.
No. And, one of the things you just said is like, you moved to Santa Fe. You moved to Santa Fe because you love it. You used to come visit it all the time, right? And you thought, this is it. This is where I'll live.
Yes.
That's where it becomes a solidity.
Yes.
And something that you can't lose,
yes.
Right? And whereas the idea of, oh, I love living in Santa Fe. This is amazing. And I always have choice.
Yes.
I can always choose again and live somewhere else.
Yes.
And then, so to me, part of that being willing to lose, whether it's your belief system, what you think you have to be, things in your life is you're open to change.
Yes. You're open to question.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Pam? What have you been unwilling to lose that changed?
Well, probably one of the biggest as a parent is being willing to lose my kids. And that it's a tough one.
Yes,
and
that's a really big one.
I had to do a lot of clearing and stuff. But what I found was when I'm functioning from being willing to lose my kids, then from that space, I'm willing to have them make their own choices in their life. I'm not trying to constantly fix everything and, ensure that they make the right choice, because I can tell, because Marilyn, I'm the mom. I can tell their choice and what it's going to mean for their future, and that they really should use my wisdom of the years and do what I know is right.
Exactly.
So if anyone wanted to puke when you just heard me say all that, being willing to lose my kids allows me to not function from that place anymore, and to just recognize they're their own individual selves, they're their own infinite being, and they're going to choose what they're going to choose.
Yes.
And I can be a contribution. I can, if they ask, I can, have some input or awareness that might contribute to them. And, but I'm willing to have them create their lives, and not, it's my responsibility to ensure it goes well. So
that would take a lot of energy away from you creating your life.
Exactly. And I think I'm a much more effective parent from that space of being willing to lose. And I had to be willing to lose, my identity as a good parent.
Yes. Yes, your reputation.
My reputation.
And identity.
I'd say, there's so many levels to this, right? There's things like you talked about of, if I lose my job, what would that, but there's also things like, one of my core places I function from, or have for a long time until I started to change it, is that the need to be right. And even more than that, the need to be not wrong.
Yes.
So, and, and then something like that governs and everything you're doing and everything you're choosing. Whereas if I'm willing to lose, being right and be wrong, then it gives me like total choice.
Yes.
To try things.
Yeah. Well, and that whole right and wrong thing is all based on judgment. And a lot of the things like the need to be right or my reputation are based on what other people think of us and how they're going to judge us.
Yeah.
And believe me, I work a lot with addiction. And what I discovered over the years is the primary addiction is to judgment and the wrongness of self. Yeah. And when we're functioning out of that, like even with something like reputation, why do you care? I mean, no, there's some practical things. If you're in business, if you are a therapist, you don't want to have a reputation of doing bad stuff with your clients. But that's kind of a different story. Yeah. Because that's generally based more on facts or experiences or this or that.
Yeah.
But when you're really concerned about losing your reputation, you constantly have to judge yourself. What are they going to think of me if I say this? Well, if I say this, who does that align and agree with? You cannot be you, and you cannot create your life.
Well, and I'd say what you just described applies to all of this, because I was thinking about, I can't lose my job. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Whether it's because you like your job or you require the money and you're worried about what would happen if you lose your job. If you're functioning from that space of, I can't lose my job, then you're having to constantly judge yourself, judge your job. You're always positioning yourself of, what do I need to say to not get fired? What do I have to do? Like, it's this constant trying to manipulate and manage and avert disaster.
Yes.
Right. Whereas if you're willing to lose your job, then you're functioning from question and choice, and you have the awareness of like, oh, well, if this doesn't work, what else is possible? What else can I create? Question. And you start to see those possibilities. Yeah. And you can even like really start to change what's going on at your current job by being willing to lose it.
Yes, because you become so much more space, and people can't poke you the way they can when they really, because we are energetic beings. If you're uptight about your job and unwilling to lose it, people know that, and they'll take advantage of you.
Yep.
They'll walk all over you until you go, eh.
Yeah.
Yep. That's okay. I'm unwilling to lose it. And notice that Pam started asking questions. And that's the thing that most people don't really get, that they can do around anything they're unwilling to lose. I was unwilling to lose my business for a while until I went, really, Marilyn? Really? What if you did?
Yeah.
What else would you do? What would that lighten up? What else could you create?
And a lot of times if you're willing to lose something, it's like the whole thing can shift and change, and the possibilities that are way greater than things that are way greater than what you thought were possible start to open up and be possible.
Yes. I love this story by Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness. He had a friend, a woman who lost her job, and she was, quote, devastated. And he said, come on, I'm taking you out for champagne and pie. And she's like, what? He said, we're celebrating. We're celebrating because now you have a possibility for something much greater.
Yeah.
And apparently 2 weeks after that, she got a job she liked better that paid a lot more money.
Mm-hmm.
But when she was so devastated by losing that job and probably would have jumped at the opportunity to have it back, and actually there was something greater waiting for her. And maybe it doesn't always work out that way. And, life gives us things, and we just have to keep asking questions and going forward.
Well, and I love in the description, you say, we feel like there's things we believe we cannot lose and still be us.
Yes.
And I think so often we're defining ourselves,
Yes.
Like if you meet someone new, one of the first things you ask them is, oh, what do you do?
Which is a very American thing. They don't.
Maybe that's only American, but here
we do. We do ask that.
You're positioning yourselves and trying to find who you are with each other based on where do you live, where do you work, and so we define ourselves these ways. Usually you don't go to a party and say, oh, hi, I'm an infinite being. And you're just there. And then people are like, what do I even ask you? Because, because I'm not defining myself by all that stuff. But it's, so when you're willing to acknowledge that so much of what you think of who you are comes from all these definitions, all these, and then if this is who I am, then I can't lose it.
Yes.
Whereas if I'm willing to lose it, I also don't define myself by it.
Exactly. And then you can be whatever you choose. Most of us don't realize we can choose and change. Mm-hmm. I used to play this game on airplanes, and I tried not to do it so that it would really upset people, but I would be a different person. This was when I was traveling economy and always had a seatmate. And they would say, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm a mom. I've got 4 kids. Or I'm applying to be an astronaut, but I didn't use that one, but I would do all these things just to see what it brought up in the other person and to have fun.
Yeah.
But one of the things that taught me was just what you were talking about, how much people define us by who we say we are and what we do.
Yeah.
And I really got that. I'm none of those things. I am beyond that.
Yeah.
But it was a very freeing exercise.
Well, and so one of the things you can do, say you're like, okay, this sounds intriguing. How do I start getting out of, all this place where I define myself and I'm not willing to lose things? And one is, Marilyn, maybe you can help me remember exactly how this goes, but like you talk about yourself not as a permanent, like nothing's permanent. So, well, in this 10 seconds, this is where I live, in this moment, this is the job I have.
Right.
Rather than
currently I'm calling myself Marilyn Bradford.
Yeah. I'm the being currently known as Marilyn Bradford.
Exactly. No, I really know that one because when I went to India, and this was in my 20s, which was quite a while ago, I joined this kind of commune thing and I got a new name, Ma Prima Porva. So I would call myself a Porva. People were so messed up about that. We're not calling you that. That's not your name. But you can,
because you're this defined thing and you can't change.
And you can't change that. And your name is sacred and all of those things. What if none of that was sacred?
Yeah.
What if it was all choice? And I think one of the things that gets older people kind of more like working like this and more closed and more closed-minded is that throughout your life, you just collect all of these ideas of who you are. Well, I'm this, but I'm not that. That's not my belief system. I believe this. And you get closed down and there's no more possibilities in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. So, Marilyn, what would you suggest for people who are looking to, be less defined in who they are and not so attached to these different labels and roles and circumstances of life?
Well, I would say start making lists. What if I decided defines me? And just write it down. Try not to judge it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can ask yourself, okay, if I didn't allow being Italian or being Jewish or being a daughter or whatever it is, if I didn't allow that to define all of who I am, what else could I be aware of? Who else could I be? How else could I look at this? What else is possible with all of this? It's these open-ended questions that are really, really helpful in looking at what we've actually taken on as who we are and who we have to be and, what's important and what's not, all of that kind of thing.
Well, and also, like, as you identify the things you're not willing to lose, it's as easy as just going, well, everywhere, anything making me not willing to lose that, destroy and uncreate it.
Yeah.
And if you want, there's something called the access clearing statement that you can use with that. And you find out more at theclearingstatement.com, but it's just some words you can say that help really clear out that energy of what you're asking to destroy and uncreate.
Yes, absolutely. One of my favorite stories is we have a friend who's a lawyer in Austria. And he was talking about he was not allowed to eat an ice cream cone on the steps of the Justice Center. He could have ice cream out of a little cup with a spoon, but it was unbecoming for a lawyer to eat an ice cream cone. So how many insane things do we take to define what we're trying to hold on to or to make sure that we don't violate what we're trying to hold on to? It was a funny story.
Yeah, and some of those come from your family culture, the family you grew up in, some from the culture you live in, the society and everything. But so whether you come at it from what am I not willing to lose and doing some energetic clearing with that, or listing out how you define yourself and, what else is possible with this? If I weren't defining myself this way, what would be possible? Like, I love all those tools.
So take a risk, jump in and look at what you have decided you're unwilling to lose. And if you still want to keep that as a definition of you.
Yeah. And shall we cue the music?
Shall we cue the music? Thank you, everybody.